they come in. So a warm welcome. Again, it's the last day of the festival. So again, thanks for sorry, I'm just gonna shut your door. Thanks for your support this week. It's much appreciated. This last session, if you've been to any of the previous ABL sessions, is a bit of a signposting session to direct you to some of the resources that we've actually created to support this. So just very simply this morning, it's just a case of revisiting some of the basic principles and then kind of like guide you to the dedicated resource tools that we've actually put online. And just finally to address perhaps some of the concerns that you may have actually going forward. So I've just got some notes. I notice Ali's with us again today. Hello, Ali, how are you? Gosh, we've had some fantastic feedback from your presentation in the week. So thank you for joining us. If anybody missed Ali's presentation earlier in the week, it's actually on the website and it really has generated food for thought. And I've cheekily just dropped in some comments that he made into this just to point people in the right direction. So the first part is really just about recapping what ABL is, and I'm not going to read through all of these, but I think the gist what we're trying to get at now, it's very active knowledge construction. And I think hopefully if you've been to a number of sessions during the course of the week, it's not just about delivering traditional lectures, it's about doing something different and thinking a bit creatively in that space. And again, what I've done here is just, for me, the Northampton example and the resources. And if you've not seen that, they are quite integral to the resources I put together on Moodle, because I just think it's a really, really clear case study of how it's evolved and what it actually looks like. And we've taken some of that and perhaps translated it into this COVID-19 landscape. But it's a framework. And then what we're encouraging people to do at Portsmouth in a way is we give you the framework in which to go and play in. And what it looks like for you is what we're here to help you develop. And that's the nature of the resources that we've actually created. So it's about creating a rich blend. And I think if you've been in my sessions before, I think, Michelle, you were at my introduction earlier in the week. Just to recap, it's a bit of a spectrum, fully online, face-to-face at one end, traditionally, fully online at the other. Ali came up with the idea of active distance learning at the other end, and that resonated a lot. So I've just put that in there as an alternative way of actually thinking about it. But colleagues in that space, remember what's happened is that it's changing. This has just come out of the Commonwealth of Learning, a really interesting document on a quality rubric for blended learning, and it kind of like reflects this. And it's the notion that one end more face-to-face and then more online delivery at the other end. But again, it's just the intensity of the blend that you're actually trying to establish to actually get students engaged. But remember, this balance, this spectrum of opportunity, as I've always kind of like called it, is driven by the pedagogy. And I think the point that Ali made, if you watch the video, is the importance of planning as part of that process to avoid design failure as you actually get into it. And I think that's a comment that's come out for a lot of colleagues during the course of this week is, where do you want us to start? What should it look like at the end of the process in terms of the deliverables? And I am very, very conscious of, perhaps we've had a great week and I'm really, hopefully you got something, but I'm also conscious that there are colleagues that are a little bit perhaps overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that we've chucked out there. And we're in a position where, well, where do you want us to start? What does it need to look like? So hopefully by the end of this session, I can provide some reassurance around that endpoint and just introduce you to the planning materials that are designed to do it. But for me, like I've said, I've been using active blending, and I know you have, and we've always had this traditional face-to-face and a blend where we've had some online and we've had some face-to-face, and it's been lovely. You can do the two together. But what's clearly happened is that, as I've just to recap earlier sessions, is that we're at this end of the spectrum now, and even within that space, we're thinking about the blend for active blended learning, and can we embed a degree of face-to-face perhaps, but doing that online, maintaining that relationship component with the students, even in this more kind of like, well, do you want it to be asynchronous or synchronous mode of delivery? And again, that leads me back to that level of synchronicity that you actually want to actually engage in. And colleagues during the week have also talked about this idea of, will there be direct contact time? And I know that for certain programs, there will be students on campus and they will get those couple of hours. What's that actually going to look like in terms of delivery? How do you actually get that to fit in the wider framework of delivery that you're looking at? So we need to think about that, and hopefully we've covered some of those issues this week. And again, the principle, one of the underpinning principles at the university is pedagogically led. So it's just making sure that everything is constructively aligned. And again, that will become clear when you see the planning resources. And also thinking about the level. So when you're planning, thinking about the level of the students that you're dealing with in terms of the planning. So what you might do with level 4 students might be different to what you do with level 5, what you do with level 6, what you might do with postgraduate. The common point for all of those is that they may well need some level of induction into your ABL approach. Don't expect them to show up and just get it. They won't. They need to have a narrative. They need to understand what the expectation is. Please go and look. We only had 5 or 6 people at the UPSU presentation yesterday. It was a bit disappointing. Please go and watch their video, because they did talk about the student expectation and what students are expecting to see. And again, they just pass this message on about reassurance of don't necessarily aim perfection. Don't try and do everything in the first stab. This is an incremental approach, and go for the quick wins if you have to for September. But please watch that. It was a really interesting presentation from the SU, and I think it just serves to give a lot of reassurance to colleagues that at the moment might just be, blimey, where do I start, and what are the students expecting? How are you incorporating EDI? How are you making resources accessible? And again, I've just come out of a session on that. If you didn't get there, just go and watch the videos. Those sessions have run during the course of the week. So please take the opportunity to go through the back catalogue. The videos, the PowerPoints, and the resources are now emerging online, and they should all be there by Monday at the very latest. But most are now up. We're just waiting on WebEx to just pop them out the system, and then we have to put them on YouTube for you to get access to. And student co-creation and engagement around that. How are we getting students involved? You know, we've been there. We've got that established. We can't lose it when we go to this face-to-face delivery. So how do we maintain that student co-creation engagement? Again, please go and revisit some of the recordings of some of the sessions this week around developing online communities and proactively working with the students. Very quickly, I showed this earlier in the week. If you've come, my approach to ABL has always been one where I see it as a bit of a pick and mix. And your blend is just changing the ingredients around it a little bit. Michelle in the week made a really good point, which I'll pick up here, was about we've introduced you to a broad church this week of different types of technologies and approaches. You don't have to do them all, please. Just because we've illustrated them doesn't mean that we're expecting you to use them all. Perhaps go for a couple and use them extensively in different ways. So for example, I did a session this morning on Padlet. Padlet is like an egg. You can make so many things out of an egg with a couple of other ingredients. So perhaps consolidate your planning around a number of key tools rather than having this massive kind of like chest of tools that gets a bit confusing for the students. The students would prefer to have fewer tools used more extensively, so they begin to get their head round how you're using them, and that gives them more confidence. And again, that message seems to be coming back from the students, but it's also, if you've read The Guardian or THE or just following anybody on Twitter at the moment, and I would, if you've got a Twitter account, you know, go and follow Academic Chatter, Alt-T, Advanced HE. There are some fantastic discussions going online at the moment. I've never seen so much sharing of practice and comment in all my years in academia than I have over the last 4 or 5 months on Twitter. It is absolutely amazing. The silver lining of this crisis, it's brought the higher education community a lot closer together. So please grab it. My Twitter feed is @CleggDoctor, always chatting on Twitter. So come and join the conversation to get some additional ideas. So again, this spectrum must come back to the university principles for online blended learning. But on top of that, remember, it's also how we're meeting the hallmark statements of graduateness for our students as well. We can't lose sight of the bigger targets that we're aiming for from a strategic perspective when we start designing for ABL. But within that, what the planning resources also do is get you to think about the nature of the activities that you want to plan for and develop. And the Moodle resources that we've also created, and the templates that you've seen, and the supporting training resources. Sorry, I won't call them training resources. They're CPD resources. Training isn't right. Are designed to help you. So from my perspective, think about what would you like the students to do before the session in terms of introducing knowledge, ideas that's prepping them. What you're going to do during the session to strengthen that knowledge. And again, this week, we've demonstrated lots of tools and techniques and ideas for that. And then what are you going to do after to help evaluate that knowledge? And then again, it's like a lovely cycle. Then that feeds back in. They become self-directed tasks. What are you going to flip to start with? How does that become a self-directed activity? What do you want them to learn? How are you going to check their understanding? How are you going to pick that understanding up in the next session? One session then rolls into the next, but in a lovely trajectory where you're developing the skills and scaffolding that learning. And again, the reason I mention the scaffolding is because that is part of the Northampton approach. And Ali, that's the point I think a lot of people took away from your session earlier in the week about scaffolding that approach for students to start engaging with. Okay. And I think the other point, again, this is the principles from Northampton, is VLEs can no longer be the repository of content. So think about how you want to engage students in that learning space. So it becomes an interactive place of endeavor and activity rather than just a repository of lots and lots of information. That's what it's not designed for. And again, please go back and look at Ali's presentation, but think about what you're actually doing and how it actually all starts fitting together. So that's just a very quick recap. Again, I've just taken this from Ali's presentation, this notion of the scaffolding and sense-making activities that you can also use to tie it all together. I'm not going to expand on this. Please go and watch Ali's presentation because he presents it far more articulately than I ever can. But please, it's a must watch, and I'm actually going to put it into the end of my workbook so you can all see it. In fact, one of the colleagues yesterday said every member of staff in the university should watch it as a starting point. Okay, so let me take you to the resources. So these are available on the web page today, so you can download them. So you've got a link there to a whole set of CPD resources. Mine is on active blended learning. The first one is like an introduction. The second one is a planning workshop, and it's designed to introduce you to the planning resources that we've actually created. So a little bit of context, the planning resources, these have been put together with some theory behind it. So again, I'm not going to go into depth because this is a pointer to the workshop activity itself, which you can do in your own time at your own pace and you can do with colleagues. But what we've done is use the ABC learning resources that have been developed at UCL. I can never pronounce it, Valorillard, different learning types as a vehicle to help you start thinking about the types of activities that you might want to include, but to help structure the type of activities that you want to develop, but also how you might then blend these different activities across the course of a particular module. So if anybody's not familiar with that, again, my workbook covers it, but what we've done in the workbook is structured it in such a way that each learning type, and again, this is all explained in the work, it's got indicative types of learning activity that go with each one. And what we've just done is really added into this the link between the types of technologies that you can actually use. Now, the UCL team have done this in part. We've expanded that and gone into a bit more depth by bringing the links up to date and linked it in to some of the training resources that we actually have. And the sessions this week have been designed to really articulate some of these key apps and how they link to these different types of learning, to these different learning types. So you get an idea of how it all starts together. So the workshop the workbook takes you through that. So have a go at doing that. And it also comes back and talks about and links you out to go and look at Gilly Salmon's resources and the 5-stage model for design. So again, there's some videos in there. There's some workshop materials for you to actually have a go at. But it's all designed to help familiarize your understanding with the key components of learning design. So I've just realized I just need to just check the chat. Right. There we go. Lovely. Okay, right, let's carry on. So I'm going to try and if I can, okay, so I'm going to try if I can share content. I'm just going to drop out and show you the different resources that we've created for you so you can see what you can actually go and play with. So that is the share. I'm sharing on 2 screens. Apologies, let's just drag that back over. Can you see share content on Word? Share document. Can you see that Word document on the screen to start with? I think that's right. So it's not coming up very clear on my. Okay. Could just somebody in the chat that you can see it? Thanks, Michelle. Okay. So what you've got first is we've created this Word document. And again, these resources are for you to go away and use, to cannibalize and to tweak as you see fit. They're a starting point. They are definitely not the definitive answer. So this one consists of 2 parts. And again, you may wish to only do one part or the other, but the principle of these initial planning resources is to first of all help you map out what you're doing already. Planning for ABL is not necessarily about reinventing the wheel, but it's about thinking, right, what am I doing now? And what is working well now? What am I really enjoying? What are my students enjoying? Where am I seeing that real demonstrable impact of pedagogy actually coming through? So it's an opportunity to track through with the learning outcomes and to just map out existing, what am I doing now? The second part of this template is about, okay, once you've done that, and some of it's just copy and paste over, it allows you to think about what you could flip over quite quickly. What's sitting there, think, actually, that's a nice activity, I'm doing that. But if I added some resources, if I did a quick video around that, and I used a Padlet or something like that, think about the ingredients that go with it, I could flip that online. And I could do that asynchronously. And then I could bring the students back for a live face-to-face meeting, half-hour session where we go over it. Or we perhaps focus that 2-hour block or that face-to-face synchronous time on reflection, to make sure that everybody is comfortable with the concepts, they're achieving that levelness that you're actually asking them for. So it's just a way that you can work individually with it. You could work on your own, or you could put this on a Google Drive and colleagues could share. Remember, one of the key principles of ABL is this whole notion of team approaching, team approaching, and actually a dialogue, a rich dialogue about what ABL perhaps looks like across one module. So there's some consistency, but also what would it look like perhaps across a program? So this, to make sure that the student's getting a very varied diet or varied blend and not getting the same type of approaches all the time. So again, this is an opportunity for you. Now, what you might do here is you might not know the answer. You might say, actually, what I'd really like to do is this. In an ideal situation, I'd like to do this. So what you do here is you can put, I'd like to consider this. I'm not sure how to do it. Come and talk to us. So this is where it allows you to create that shopping list of opportunity and to identify support. So if I can give you one example, I'm currently working with a colleague who is teaching a module on man in or humans in extreme environments. And she did a lot of practical work. And we were having a chat the other day and she turned around and said, what I'd really like to do, Andy, is actually have a video of somebody walking on the moon, coming into an airlock and showing what happens if they change pressures around and something like that. And I went away and created an animation for it because we've got some software that allows us to do it. I only did a basic one, but I said, look, is this what you're after? And she said, yes. And now I've got the script and I'm just drawing somebody in from one of our online developers, and we can actually create that as a little video for her to help get it online in place of perhaps something that she do more practically in the class. So please don't, if you're not quite sure how to do something, when you start planning, come and ask the Act Dev and TEL teams, and we're here to support that. And be creative. Please don't be put off by, I don't think I can do that, because we will have an answer. We will have a tool. And again, this week has been about showcasing some of the tools that you can use. But if you need a bit of hand holding and a bit of guidance, we are very, very happy to support you with that. So please use us. and be creative. We do wacky really well. We like ideas that come in left field because that's what makes it fun and engaging, and will really resonate with your learners. Right, so that's the first one. The second one is a little bit more interactive, so I'm going to try and I'm going to drop out of this one if I can, and I'm going to go to this one. Let's see if it works. Right. Oh, hang on. Bear with me, colleagues. Sorry, I'm just trying to find. Okay, that I think is working. Right. I think you can all see that. So this is what we've actually put together. Took a bit of working, but I think you can all see that. So Michelle, can you just tell me if you can see that all right? It's just a PowerPoint board.
Yeah, it's fine.
Thank you. Right. Okay. So what you've got is, first of all, an overview. And again, this links to the online resources on Moodle. So you can go there for additional information. And this just tells you how to use it. Okay. And it goes back and it talks about some of the theory. So there's a bit of an overview, and then there's some technical guidance that actually goes with it. So you use this PowerPoint tool in edit mode. Okay. Rather than a presentation mode, because you're going to move things around. So if you go here, okay, what I've done is taken the ABC resources that are often they've created lots of really cool resources, but they are designed in the first instance for quite face-to-face workshops, which are really interactive and actually get people working together. And they have created some alternatives online. So I've kind of like put together my own version, and I just want to take you through how you use it because it's relatively straightforward. So what you've got at the bottom, and again, use this with the supporting notes, is you've got a deck of cards that relates to each of the 6 learning types. You've got some time icons, and you've got asynchronous and synchronous stamps. So basically, think about your session, and you've got 7 sheets altogether. So you've got space for 14 basically sessions, and in each session I've given you 6 slots to plan some activities within that. Now, if you need to do more, just simply duplicate each side and you can create some more spaces. So what you do is you can either work through this individually, or you can put it on Drive and you can share it and you can work on it collaboratively. But you start thinking about what you want to do. What type of learning activity do you want to put in? So let's say for a start, my first activity I want to do is an acquisition. So I just simply drag the mouse over the custom bar at the top, and I move that into my space here. And then if you just double click, that text box in the middle goes active, and then you can start putting it right. What is it you actually want the students to do? So I might get the students to interrogate website and look for X. And then you might also put in there the apps and that you actually might want to go with it. So you can develop the activities in there that you actually might want to do. What you can also do then is say, right, how long do you want that task to last for? So you simply just you've got one each of a timestamp, and very simply to create more, you just right click, copy, and just paste it on the screen. And that one I want to last 25 minutes. And I think on this occasion, again, I'm just going to copy and paste one of those onto the board. That's going to be an asynchronous activity like that. So you can start building up and you can start sharing it. So I've done an acquisition task. What I want them to do then is I actually want them to discuss that. So I'm actually then going to draw that up, put my next one in, and I want 35. I want them to bring that together like that. Okay, and I'm going to do that as an asynchronous workbook or a forum on Moodle. And that goes in like that. And that's all you're doing. And so for each one, you can actually add in your activities here. So you can do that for each session. It does, again, you've got space for 6 activities. You're probably not going to use that many. Again, it depends on what you're doing, but it allows you to develop quite a visual approach to the types of activities that you actually want to develop for each of your sessions. Okay, so you've got a pack of cards at the bottom. You can create more cards just by simply just highlighting, copy and paste like that. And then do the same thing for the time icons on the side, and whether it's synchronous or asynchronous delivery. So use the first word planner first to help sketch out what it is you want to do, and then perhaps use this interactive planner to start detailing a little bit more around what you actually want to do per week. This is hopefully this is a really good, we've had some really good feedback on it already, as a vehicle for allowing teams where you're team teaching to actually get a clear picture of the kind of activities that everybody wants to start doing. Okay, does that make sense with everybody? Thank you for coming, Ali, and thank you for your help this week. It's very much appreciated. Guys, there's only a small group of us. Would you like to unmute and chip in? Are you happy with that to start with?
Yep, it's a good model, easy to follow.
Is that all right, Paul? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I like the these 6 activities. Are they based on Bloom, or is it a variation of Bloom?
L'Oreal. If you go onto actually, let me take you there so you can see it. I'll get back to Chrome. Hold on. Chrome. Share. I'll just.
I like that model. That's it's got sort of implicit sense.
L'Oreal. It's 6 learning types. If I can fire up, I'll just take you to the Moodle page so you can see it in action. So what we've created on Moodle is a series of kind of like CPD resource sites. So I'm going to take you to my active blended learning one. So basically, I've created 2 interactive workbooks. The first one is an introduction, and the second one is a planning workbook. So if you go into that, there we are. So we go into there. Basically, oh, hang on, apologies, wrong one. It's the next one. There we go. There you go. So if you go through there, and it's all contextualized for you, and it explains where all the models have come from. It runs you through all the 6 learning types for each one, with supporting video, supporting discussion, with some graphics to show what it actually means. So for example, you're looking at the acquisition one here. So each card, and this is the ABC resources that you do on a day. So under normal circumstances, I would invite you into Mercantile. I would put you on tables with really big planning sheets with lots of cards. And basically on those cards, you'd start saying, out of this list, right, this is the kind of thing I'd want to do. So you write that down. And what we've done then is the ABC guys have done like an at wheel. We've just taken that and expanded on it. But for each of these acquisition activities, we've tried to show you some of the potential ingredients that are there that would help you deliver that. So you've got acquisition, collaboration, investigation. So they give you an example, they give you a feel for the types of activities that you could do there. But again, the kind of digital tools that are available. And again, the aim of the festival this week has been to kind of like showcase how some of these tools work, so you can actually start tying the 2 together. And again, it's just detail on how to use it with some videos. The ABC for Learning Design resources in there, which I'm showing you now. There's also a link to Jilly Salmon stuff. And I need to put Ali's video from earlier in the week in there as well. But yeah, but it's all explained, but it does work, and it's just a really nice way. And the Moodle template, where we're asking you now to think about the group discussion activities, the knowledge check activities that go with it, are aligned to perhaps sit against this type of planning and activity. So you've got the icons that you can use to actually align it. So under the workbook, I go back to the home page. What you've also got, if you've not ventured in yet, is that this is one of a series of workbooks. So the first one is the principles of design. So this is a whole template, a module page on how to actually use the template effectively that we've created. So if you do this one, and then do mine together, and then you work through. And it's not about necessarily working through each one in a lot of detail. You can if you wish, but you might also wish to dip in and out and get some ideas. But it's all there to try and support that. Right, what is it I'm actually trying to do for September?
I think it's a great model, Andy. I like the fact that it's underpinned by theory, pedagogic theory, and you've clearly put in a lot of work into it. I mean, I've seen many of the sessions this week, and I've been totally impressed by the whole thing. So some great resources there.
That is, it came together really quickly. I'm knackered, but no, we're absolutely delighted. We're getting some really good feedback, and I think, does anybody? Can I just ask? Do colleagues have any concerns about things about going forward? I'm just very conscious that we're getting a lot of people saying, "Blimey, now there's a lot to do for September. Where do I start? And can I get there?" How's everybody feeling? Please chip in, unmute. There's only a small crew for this today, because I think we've captured a lot of people during the week. But does anybody have any? Michelle, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. A quick question for you. I know that when you use this approach, usually they recommend a certain balance between acquisition and then the more interactive tasks later on, like production and things like this. And I think usually it's only maximum, they say maximum 20% acquisition, and 80% of the time should be. What do you have any tips or idea about how do you deal with students that have a bit of an allergy to acquisition and would rather, skip that step altogether?
My immediate answer would be to restrict access to the next set resources in Moodle until they've completed what you want them to do.
Okay.
That's almost, and you can do that. You could get somebody to do something. There could be a knowledge check that goes with it, and then that releases the next bit of the activity. So there is a bit of a force, start engaging with it.
Can you do that in Moodle, did you say?
You can do that in Moodle, yeah. There is a way of actually unlocking completion of activities to run on to the next one.
To like have a workflow in place, basically, yeah.
Yes, it is, and you need to have demonstrated that. So if you start embedding things in, there is a way. Tom Langston's the Moodle man. And Mike. No doubt we will be running. But again, you've all seen Tom and Mike in action this week. Please just send them an email and ask for some guidance around that, because it might be something that we won't stop. We've done the festival this week, but there will be more training coming between now and September. So if there's, out of this week, there are ideas for training that colleagues would now like to see or repeated, remember that we've got all the videos from this week online. There's additional resources on these pages that we've created. There's also wider tail resources as well. But if something's missing, please let us know, and we can wrap something up and deliver around that quite easily. Catherine, how are you feeling? Inspired? Confused? How are you doing?
Yeah, I am. I mean, generally, I think like everybody in the university is probably feeling a bit fatigued, and I don't know how you've managed to do this week, because you've all been so enthusiastic and energetic. I'm not tech averse. I want to really start to work with this technology, and I really want to start to embed it. I need a little bit of time to kind of assimilate the information and do the planning that you're talking about. And I've just been setting up some Padlets that I'm sending to my BA2 students from last year, because they were a really nice group, very responsive group. So I thought I'll just test out Padlet, even though they've finished, I'll send it to them and just ask them general questions, because I know that they will respond. And just to get some sort of feedback from them and to test it out myself. So it's a good audience, even though I know they've finished. They're a very positive, very strong group. So I just want to get going with it, really. And I just want to, I mean, I've got for CCI, both Alex and I are looking at, set it up last year, but we didn't implement it. It's an online ethics training module. And I did set up a questionnaire and a quiz within it, but now I'm thinking, oh, should I just do it that conventional way, or should I do it a different way? Because it's quite difficult to get staff into understanding ethics. So there's lots of areas I'd love to use it. I just need to have time to reflect and plan properly, really.
And if at any point, I think what we might do, I'm just conscious what we do over the next couple of weeks is, I think we might just perhaps keep our tea at 3 sessions going. So if anybody wants to have those conversations, and if any of you would like to have a conversation or a one-to-one or bounce ideas off somebody, we're all really happy to do that. I would be delighted to do that anytime if you just want to bounce some ideas off. So please don't hesitate to send me an email or any of the team. That's what we're here for at the moment, is to make sure that you're comfortable. But I think the other point you mentioned, Catherine, for me was about talking to the students. And I know they're away and they're not around, but it's as you start developing and honing this down a little bit, and certainly don't necessarily try and have everything done for 12 weeks of teaching ready for the start of semester, because I don't think that's a realistic target. But you might have a couple of weeks, but then as you deliver those couple of weeks and you're playing around with this new technology, a couple of things that are really critical. One, think about how you're going to transition the students in, and tell the story of what you want, how you've constructed the module and how the online resources and what asynchronous means to you and what synchronous means. And so they're on the same page. That's really important. And then once you've started playing around and perhaps you're doing a Padlet or Mentimeter, just go back to them and say, is it working? Were you okay?
Yes.
And with a Padlet, you could just have a Padlet feedback board at the top of your Moodle page where students can post comments if it's working, if it's not working, that you can keep an eye on. So at any point they can actually feed back, and you get that nice barometer, if you like, of what you're doing is actually having an impact with them and if they're all managing to keep up. So try and establish some of that dialogue. Do the planning, so you've got that shopping list of what you need to do. Some of those things you might be able to do really quickly, and then other things you might be thinking, actually, I want to do that, but I wonder if there's an alternative that I've not considered. That's where we come in. So just if you've got a really wacky idea, and people are doing it now, and say, Andy, I'd really like to have a go at doing this. What could I use? That's a Padlet, or that's Mentimeter. Have you tried doing that? Have you tried doing that? And it's just that one suggestion, and people are off. But it is take time to reflect, but and then let it sink in and develop. And then we're here to help further develop those ideas. But hopefully, I hope you find the resources a useful starting point. Maria, can I ask how you're doing?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. Are you okay?
Yes, thank you. Everything has been really useful and very informative. So lots of ideas to start thinking about. I think I'm actually one of well, unless there's a change, I'm gonna have quite a bit of face-to-face hours.
Yeah.
I teach languages, so I think one thing now is how we're going to balance those face-to-face sessions with also the materials online, how to distribute content within lecturers for one module.
Yeah, I think that's a really important question that's beginning to emerge, isn't it? Is if you've got them for a couple of hours a week, how are you going to maximize the time in those couple of hours? Is it introducing you, or are you going to flip the stuff beforehand? So when they do come and see you, it's about reflecting on the stuff that they've done online. Again, there isn't a right or wrong answer to that, and you know better than anybody because it's your module and you know what you need to get out of that space. But if I may, I really, in that time that you've got with them, get that relational bit in, and because they're going to miss you, and and they're very lucky that they're getting some face-to-face time.
I think yes, and it's languages, so that it's very valuable to have that time for them to see us. They can obviously speak as well on online sessions, but I think that face-to-face time
absolutely, it can't be replaced. And I think that's the same for everybody. And the biggest challenge for us at the moment is how do we replicate that relational stuff online? Okay, great. That sounds really positive. Is it? I'm gonna be really. Katrina.
Hello, can you hear me?
How are you doing?
Yeah. Yes, I'm well, thank you. Yeah, my child might be running around, so I apologize for the noise beforehand. So, yeah, I think I'm one of those who feels slightly overwhelmed and trying to kind of allocate some quiet time to sit and actually do something, because I think I'm getting really inspired, and then I'm very conscious of the time at the same time. And also another challenge that I found that by trying to incorporate, let's say, different types of activities, to stimulate engagement, knowledge acquisition, collaboration, at a certain point, I stop myself and start thinking whether I'm overloading students. And if, let's say, every single module on my course would be doing the same. So let's say every week they need to do group activity, every week they need to read certain amount, every week they need to watch this video, and contribute to the forum, participate in the face-to-face discussion or whatever. I think they might end up knackered at some point. Yeah,
it's such a very important point. I've got two boys. One's doing A-level maths, and one's doing he started his GCSEs in lockdown. So let me tell you two separate stories that I think translate over. So he started his GCSEs, they got him introduced, so he's doing health and social care, and his first instruction from his new GCSE that he's never done before was read the book. There was no little welcome video, there was no audio from the teacher, it was just straight into a book, and he struggled because he hadn't been introduced, it was all new to him, and he didn't know what to do. A-level wise, they've just thrown far too much at my eldest son, and he's working all the time to the point where it's getting silly, and we've had to go back to the school and say, you have no idea the amount of work you're throwing out, and you think that students can just do it like that. So again, I think that you have to create sensible expectations, but also think realistically, if I'm setting this task, how long is it going to take? So on the planning tool, that's why I put in the time element, because what they've actually introduced in Moodle now on your Moodle pages is that you can actually pull down, I haven't used it yet because it's new, but you can actually add a time element into different activities. So the students can actually see how long they're expected to spend on it when they actually start doing it. So I think it's just about developing that narrative with the students, and also the expectation of this should take about half an hour, this should take, and so on and so forth. So they can plan it out. As you go forward. But again, the ABL principles, I think Ala's one is if you focus on the planning first in detail, that really does help, because it gives you the confidence to see that bigger picture. And the more people that you can have involved in that process, and you share it with other people in the team across the program, everybody gets a clear picture of what everybody else is doing. So your blend complements somebody else's blend, and that complements somebody else's blend. But it's all based on the same principles of engagement, interaction, deep learning, and so on and so forth. So the students get a really consistent experience.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you.
Brilliant. Okay. Is that all right for everybody? But like I said, we're here to help. Please have a go at the resources, dip in and out at your own pace. And then if you need anything, just come back and find us, and we can tackle any issue, and I'm really happy to help. Make sure that you're in the right place for September.
Andy, one thing that I would maybe suggest, I was just conscious that clearly time is a barrier, isn't it, for some people, and it may be a psychological barrier than a real barrier. People just putting off when to start, because it's been so exciting. There've been so many different ideas. Sometimes you don't know where to start. I just wonder whether or not, and I haven't seen all the resources, with exemplars of sites that do things particularly well. Getting exemplars on the table up there to look at is often quite good.
Module one, Paul. There are some examples there that Mike's pulled in to show you what they look like.
Yeah, that sounds great.
If I may also, if you look at gosh, what day was it? Let me point you in the right direction. If you go and look at a session that was delivered by Richard Paul.
Yes, I was there actually. No, and in fact, I've spoken to Richard about the setup of those things, because I work on his MSc program. Brilliant. So yeah, he's already well advanced. Yeah, he's very good, and you're quite right. That is a good.
That's a really nice example. I would ask everybody this, but again, I'm really happy. I've got some examples from old places. So if you ever want to develop something and then, oh, excuse me, you want to show it to somebody, anybody in the Dev and Tail team will happily give things a once over.
Do you think is there some value in all the ideas that you've explained across all those presentations, whether there is a starred system whereby you can rate 1 star, these are easy activities that don't take much time to plan, and you could even subdivide them: collaborative, acquisition, checking, learning?
I haven't quite gone that far. The closest I got to that, I ran a session on Tuesday on creativity.
Yeah.
Basically, we came up with basically it was like a recipe card idea, and we had broken that down into starters, mains, and desserts.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Yeah.
starters were simple things that you can do really quickly, that probably take half an hour to set up, and then they're off and the students can actually play with them and use them. And then the mains were slightly more complicated and a little bit more involved and focused on deeper critical thinking. And then we offered some puddings, which were tools for reflection and presentation. So that video is online at the moment. It's called
that's a great idea.
Recipes. So you can also download a recipe card, and what we'd like people to do is send in their recipes.
That's a great idea.
Because what I'd like to do, and I agree with you completely, we need to showcase more what people are doing. And I'd like to create a University of Portsmouth Telltales recipe book of how people have used different technologies.
Great idea. No, that's excellent. Now I can see you're all the right thinking there.
The other thing that's coming, and it's now we've got this out of the way, is at the moment we're working on a side project, and at the moment it's called Project Colin, and it's called the Colleagues Online Innovation Network, which is, we came up with that jokingly. At the moment it seems quite adept. But we're going to create a learning and teaching equivalent of Pure. Because at the moment, if you've got an expertise in L&T, it's very difficult to share it across the university. There isn't a platform. So it's going to be based on an e-portfolio. You can come in, you can create a page, you've got a profile page, you can put your photos on it, media, whatever you want. And then keywords, you're going to be able to associate your areas of expertise. Once we've got that populated, we're then going to create small academies of professional practice, TEL, EDI, whatever, and you'll be able to join those practices and actually start discussions and share work and share examples. So that's my next project. Now we've got this all out the way, and hopefully that will give us a bit of a platform for sharing ideas of what people have actually been doing.
Well, I look forward to that, because I think that people have got an appetite now, because it's been such a good week. So well done.
I put this together in a fortnight, and it's been bloody hard work, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I must admit, the team I've been working with have been amazing to put everything together, and the way that we've all come together to do the sessions. But I'm just delighted that everybody's found it really useful. The feedback has been lovely, so it's been worth it, and I'm really delighted that you've got something from it. But it's not the end. It's not like you get a festival once a year. We're here all the time. So please come and use us, and anything we can do to make your life easier, just ask, please.
Well, thanks very much for that, Andy.
Right, guys, thanks for coming. Have a lovely. We've got our final tier 3 this afternoon. So if there's any comments, we're just doing a wrap up. You're all welcome to that. But if not, I can understand that you've probably got a bit of festival fatigue. But thanks for coming anyway. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Andy. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Andy.
Cheers, Michelle. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.